One of the best things that you can put into one of your interior scenes for Lumion or any other rendering program are just household plants. They can be large plants that are on the ground in a pot, or they can just be a small plant that's either by the window or on a desk. But whatever plant you choose to use, it definitely gives your room much more of a lived-in, just sort of feel to it. Like someone really does live there, and it's much more welcoming. Something that I actually like it for too is I find that a plant can help add a little bit of color that you aren't really getting from any other sources. Like I find in a lot of these new sort of like industrial modern studios, you get a lot of concretes, you get a lot of like black and gray metals, maybe even like a rose metal or a copper. And then you get a lot of like white, leather, gray fabrics, that sort of thing. But you don't really get a lot of like reds and greens, depending on what you're kind of doing. Like that's just what I've noticed from those scenes. So these plants can really kind of pop if you put those in, and it can take something that's just going from this concrete apartment to something that really looks like you kind of want to live there. And yeah, so that's something that I think is extremely important for ArchViz, and one of the best places to get plants for ArchViz, especially the small kind of like tabletop ones, would be Poliigon. Now, these work for just about any modeling software or rendering software, but the reason why I like these in particular for Lumion is because a lot of the leaves are actually modeled. They're not a texture with kind of opacity, that sort of thing. So you get this very, very sharp leaf. And it also lets you put the waxiness on. And I find waxiness works really well with them. So I'm just going to show you how I would go to Poliigon, download one of these, and then I'd bring it into Lumion just to, kind of brighten up one of my scenes. So I hope you enjoy the video, and I hope you learned something. Okay, so as I mentioned, I absolutely love the Poliigon plants, but there often are a couple of things you have to do just to kind of get things working how you want them to in Lumion. Um, the trick I'm going to show you in Blender is probably one of the best tricks that I can really give you as a Lumion user in Blender. If Blender is something you kind of shied away from, something you think you can't really get your foot in the door with, this is probably one of the best tutorials to watch. It's a very easy trick that I'm going to be doing. But it's extremely powerful for Lumion because it'll let you kind of take control of material IDs. So if you're ever, kind of going through Lumion and like you're having this problem where certain parts of a model have the same texture, and you can't sort of change them up. This is the trick that you can just bring into Lumion or Blender, and if you just kind of like do the link select like I'm going to show you, you can actually just make it so these are like all the textures are just acting the way that you want. And that's extremely powerful for Lumion. So the first one that I'm going to do is I might as well just download this because it's a free one so everyone can follow along. Now, as a rule of thumb, when I'm downloading for Lumion from Poliigon, you should always get the Blender version. The reason being is that 3ds Max, if there's any metal inside of the model, like if you're doing like a chair with metal legs, those legs just going to come in as black into Lumion because there's a different metalness workflow for 3ds Max. Basically, the color comes from the reflection map, and then something that's just completely metal is black. But the problem is that Lumion does not share that workflow. So anything that you are trying to go from 3ds Max to Lumion, it's going to come in as black. Basically, long story short, if you haven't seen any of my other tutorials about going from Poliigon into Lumion, just get the Blender one because it actually gives you the color map. So you don't have to go and, do Photoshop or whatever. Like it's all just ready to go. So hit free download. And I'm just going to show you quickly why in Lumion, this is kind of a powerful trick. So we'll just give this a moment to download. Here we go. Yeah, so this one will only just take a second longer. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to downloads, extract all. I'm going to just go to my desktop and dump it there for now. Okay, so that should be good to go. I'm going to open up Lumion. I'm going to go to import, and I'm going to find the plant here. I have no idea how to say that, but yeah. generic. We're going to bring this in. So as I kind of mentioned, this one, I think it technically works. Like you can just bring it in and apply a texture to it. But the issue that you kind of run into with this is that you can only bring the one texture in. If you want to make it glossy, the whole thing becomes glossy. And with a lot of plants, maybe not this one in particular, you want to have waxiness on the leaves. I'd say it's almost necessary, because if you don't put waxiness on something like fruits or leaves or something like that, they're going to look plastic, because that's like, it makes it so that there's no subsurface scatter. So you're not going to see any light passing through the plant. And our minds, as soon as we see that happening, we just assume that it's plastic. So if you have something like an apple, or maybe not an apple, maybe like a lime or a lemon, you can kind of see it fairly well with that. If it's out in the sun, you will actually be able to pick up on some of the light going through the skin and bouncing out. Even though it's not much, you will actually be able to tell, because in Lumion, if you don't have that same effect, it just looks like it's a straight up plastic lemon, and it doesn't, you're not going to get the effect that you want from it. So we're going to go here, go to generic color, and then we're just going to get the normal map here. Okay, so yeah, this is the problem that I'm talking about. So basically, it's like, if you want to make it so that this pot is more reflective or it's like glossier, then you have to change the leaves at the same time. Which might work, but especially if you want to come in here and go like, okay, now we want the waxiness up. I think if you go like this, it's going to make the entire thing waxy. Yeah, so that's just not really the effect that we want, because we don't want this to have subsurface scatter. We only want the leaves. So how do we do this? We can just bring it into Blender. What you can do is go File, Append, find your plant, go Software, Blender, Blender Cycles, the Blender Cycles.blend file, and then Collection. So it seems like a lot of steps, but it's really just like, a lot of the times there's only really one option you can click on. Then you want to bring the collection in. So if you do it like this, it comes into Blender already done. But I'm going to show you the quick trick that I was talking about. So this one actually is not, it's actually pretty easy, because this one's already separated out. So what you can do is you can just come in here, hit tab. So when you click on it, you just left click on it, hit tab, and you go into edit mode for this material. Now in this one in particular, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the material properties over here, add a new material, hit new. We're going to call this leaf. Now, this may not be the best example, because what you could do is you could just, oh no, then again, I guess, yeah, you would have to separate the material ADO, because it won't work like that. So basically go into edit mode. If it's not selected, just hit A and all the leaves should get selected. Just make a new material called leaf. You don't have to do anything to the materials. Hit assign. And even though this doesn't look right, you'll see why this is important. What we basically just did is we changed the material ID on it. As you can see, if we're clicking back and forth between this, you can see the name of the plant here, or the pot texture, and also the plant texture up here. They're the same. So the reason why we added this leaf in is because we've now given it a different material ID. So Lumion will not treat it as the same material. And just kind of a little example of how this works, because Lumion will not get rid of the UV mapping, and making this new texture will not get rid of the UV mapping. So all the leaves will come in normally inside of Lumion. And just a little example of how this works. If you go into tab again, and you just see that nothing is selected here, just hover over any leaf and hit L, and it will select the whole leaf. This is something called linked, select linked. So basically, if there's like a bunch of little objects, so like if each leaf is an individual object, you just hit L and it selects the whole object. This is probably, as I said, one of the best things I can teach you as a Lumion user if you want to learn Blender. Like this trick alone is worth getting Blender, in my opinion, because it helps you out on so many scenes. Because this is something that Lumion, like if you can't separate the material IDs out in SketchUp or something, you're completely hamstringed. Like you just can't use it because it's not going to look right. So basically, what I'm going to do is, all you have to do is, I don't have my hand on the mouse, by the way. So as you can see, like you don't have to click anything. You just hit L, and then while it's hovered over it, and it'll select it. So I'm going to go back over to this top texture here, assign. And now as you can see, there's basically two different materials here. So once this is done, that's all we have to do. I think if we go File, Export, FBX, we're going to find the texture, or sorry, the plant folder. We're going to come in here and we're just going to call this good plant. Export. Now we go back into Lumion. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to import a new one. Okay, so what's going to happen now is that when we select this, see how there's actually two different materials now, where I might as well bring the other one back in actually, because I can kind of show you an example with both of them. So this one, as you can see, you have to select all of it at the same time. This one, I can kind of separate it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back in here. I'm going to hit A to select everything, leaf, assign, so everything is here. And as you can see, this might just make it stand out a bit better. I'm just going to quickly change the color of this. So yeah, that just makes it seem a little bit easier. You can see it a bit better. So we're going to go to Export, FBX again, just double click good plant, and then that just overrides it. It should be good to go. Come back in here, reload. And this will just take a second, but now all the materials should be kind of working in the way that we want. Yeah, unfortunately, it just take a second, but yeah, as you can see now, the leaves and the pot are separated, so we can kind of do what we want with each part, so that we can get them looking as sharp as possible. And this is what I was talking about the UV unwrapping. If I apply this texture to the pot of the plant, everything will still go into the right place because the UV mapping hasn't changed. So basically each point on this model, the Lumion or Blender knows exactly where the texture has to wrap around it. And if there are certain parts that aren't used, it's just not going to use it. It won't wrap it in a weird way, unless you do this basically, where like, see how like everything looks weird when I do the map scale? That's because Lumion tries to unwrap it like that. But if map scale is set to imported, then it just does whatever it's basically given. And that can really help a lot. What's kind of cool about this too is you can click on this, copy this material, and then click back on the leaf, standard, paste material. And then once you just drag the colorization down, now as you can see, now it's taking the part that we want for the leaves from this same texture. So this is only going to use, this only counts as one texture inside of Lumion. So, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to care about that small performance gain, but technically it is there. So, you know, I guess it's more optimized than using a completely different texture, but from here, you know, we can turn maybe the glossiness down and the reflectivity down. We can turn reflectivity of this up. Like, you know, typically I don't think you want the dirt to be glossy, but again, you could just separate that out, and maybe we'll just do that as an example. So we come in here, just hit L kind of all over the place. And actually, I'm going to show you another trick because that's going to take too long. Click on the pot, hit L on the pot. Okay, so all we did is select it. Now if you hit Control I, it's just going to select, it's basically going to take it so that everything is selected, is non-selected, everything non-selected is now selected. So it just inverts the selection. But now we can come over here and just go dirt. I'll make this like yellow or something. So it looks weird, but this is how I like to break things up anyways. It's really awesome that Poliigon has everything on one map because it's very like resource efficient. It's not going to take up a lot of space on your graphics card, which it doesn't really matter as much for Lumion as it does for Blender, but it's really nice to have. But I do think it's also just as important to be able to separate them back out if you need to have the material IDs kind of on their own. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to reload it again. Just give this a second. Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of all over the place in this tutorial, but I keep like remembering stuff that I should probably just show people. So yeah, basically, yeah, you are going to have to reapply this, but it's not really a big deal. So go in here. And once you bring it in once, then it'll work for all of them. So bring that down, maybe bring the gloss down. We're just going to go copy material, dirt, paste, standard, paste. And as you can see, everything works again. If I turn this up, So I just want this pot to be reflective. The dirt, make this not reflective. Make the relief a bit higher, I guess. And then for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and turn the waxiness about halfway. Again, I don't think these plants are actually that translucent or they have that much subsurface scatter, but I think just for this one, it's a pretty good example. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to kind of quickly take a look at this in rendered mode. See if I can get an example here. So the reason why you do the waxiness is you can kind of see, it might be a little bit hard to see here, but like basically the light will kind of come through this. Maybe I'll just throw up a quick example when I go through with this, just sort of showing what it looks like with it on and with it off. But yeah, that is more or less how to do it. I'm just going to do a quick kind of like speed run just to show you how fast you actually can do this. So basically, I'm just going to get rid of this. I'm going to go to File, or actually Append. I'm going to go back to, I'm going to grab this one, Software, Blender, Collection, Young. Okay, so then this should be almost good to go. I'm going to click here. Going to make dirt. Click in. I'm going to click on the pot, hit L, Control I, only the dirt selected, assign. I'm just going to change the color so I can see that I did it. I'm going to click on the leaves now. And again, this one is kind of already separated out. Like it's kind of easy, but I'm going to show you the way you normally have to do it. Obviously, you can just hit A and it's going to select everything. But typically what I would do, because right now the pot and the leaves are the same texture. So I'm just going to come through here, hit L while hovering over all the leaves. And make sure I get all of them. Plus, new, leaf, assign, file, export. I'll just save it in here. Call it Good Plant 2. And what I'll do then is I'll just import it. So Good Plant 2. And then, yeah, obviously it's going to be all in the same FBX file with 3 different material IDs. Leaf, dirt, and then whatever the name of the plant was. So land, Monstera, whatever it's called. And then, yeah, we can just go through and do the same thing. So standard, we're going to go back to the desktop, grab this. Oops. Yeah, software, yeah. This is what I was talking about too. So in this one, it doesn't matter because both workflows are going to look the same, specular and metalness. But typically, if you're having problems with black textures inside, like coming from Poliigon, 100% download the Blender version, go software into Blender, and then there's another set of maps in here. I don't know why they don't make them more accessible because I think a lot of people have no idea about that. But when I came across that, I realized that that was pretty cool. So yeah, this one already had a different material ID, but as I said, I just kind of wanted to show how I'd separate them out. So take this, turn the gloss. I actually think we can leave the gloss there. Turn the waxiness up to like 0.3. Dirt, or actually we're going to do this one. Here we go. And do the normal now. No, that's actually kind of weird. So that one messed up. Normally that doesn't mess up there. Oh, see, that's what I did. So I grabbed the wrong normal map. I grabbed it from the last one. So I was gonna say that doesn't make any sense that that would happen because the color map looked like it was working. But yeah. So make sure you grab the right one. And I just did it again. I grabbed the wrong one. So it's this one. Sorry. So we're gonna take this. Copy, dirt. Yeah, and then you just kind of adjust it how you want, but for the most part, it's good to go now. And yeah, hopefully people found this video helpful. As I mentioned, this is a trick that I think is very, very helpful for ArtsViz. The Poliigon plants are like A+ plants in my opinion, and I think they only cost like you know, like I think they're only a couple bucks each when you kind of calculate how much the credits are, which is completely reasonable to me. As long as you kind of know how to separate them out correctly, they're a really, really great tool to use. If you found this video helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit the like button on this video. And if you're not already subscribed, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button and also ring the bell. It really helps me with the YouTube algorithm. And honestly, it's always just nice to wake up and see that some more people have subscribed because it makes me want to make more videos and also just make more content for everyone. If you are subscribed, I just want to say thank you very much for supporting the channel, and I hope to see you in some future videos. Have a great night, everyone.